The following is my review of OMORI. OMORI is a surreal psychological RPG game developed by OMOCAT and was released on December 25th, 2020. This is without a doubt one of the most profound games I've ever come across, and it was a total accident. I had and still have no knowledge of its production, team, or any of the logistics behind it. I honestly just bought it on a whim because I haven't played many RPG Maker games. But I do know that after spending roughly 22 hours playing it, I came out of it feeling whole as a person. I now know that there's a team that exists that can produce a game with this kind of passion, attention, and scope without the resources of a AAA company. This game to me ended up being an antidote of sorts for my own personal life. I'm gonna try to describe my experience playing this without too many spoilers, but if I end up dropping some bombs, I do apologize, so take this as a spoiler warning just in case. Firstly, let me give you a very short summary of how this game plays. It's basically a turn-based RPG with a full story, side quests, collectibles, multiple endings, and original score. It can take you anywhere from 15 to 30 hours to complete, and it costs $20 on Steam as of today. Now let me tell you what I think. The best way to describe this game is by first setting up the foundation, which consists of the fragile connections between love of self, love of friends, and how to navigate that love in the face of incredibly sad moments. Then we layer on the perception of our protagonist, Sunny, who battles his inner demons in a dream world of his own imagination with the help of friends who, after all manners of adventures and struggles, stay by his side. What we are dealing with is a game that has managed to show us a world where we blend the very real circumstances and consequences behind battling fear, mental illness, and loss with the joys of childhood imagination. This imagination we experience is crafted by a long string of metaphors and imagistic representations of real-life feelings and ideas. Some of these ideas are more obvious than others, but I would say that they are omnipresent. We are in a world of complete imagination. Call it the pure, untapped creative reservoir of a child no younger than 12. This world was created by Sunny, or rather this world lived in Sunny's head, and we the players get to discover its bountiful quests and meanings. So what are the metaphors exactly? We have ideas that are represented as game elements, either through showing us in cutscenes or by fusing the meaning of these ideas into other circumstances in the game. For example, we are shown in both abstract and concrete ways ideas of loneliness, mental illness and its various permutations, suicide, friendship, love, family bonds, the conversion of emotional strength into physical strength, and above else, that in the face of frightening uncertainty, you must dream. It's a string of metaphors that takes you into all realms of this game and sinks you into those nuances that come with it. From the beginning of the game, it's quite obvious that Sunny is an introvert that has some obvious deep reservations kept inside. We know this because he is the only colorless character in a world filled with it. He also has absolutely no dialogue apart from a couple of cutscenes. He is very much an observation mechanism meant for us, the players, to inject ourselves into. It is still very much a story tethered to Sunny's world, even though we are watching. So we've already seen a hint of why this world is based off metaphors, so let's keep going. The entire combat system itself is a metaphor for how we deal with our fears in the real world. This becomes incredibly apparent when Sunny has to battle a manifestation of this dark thing he's been keeping inside. So the game coaches us in how to handle it. When we start off, we are scared, weak, timid, and completely unaware of how to overcome this inner darkness. Sunny has even compartmentalized his own worlds, which are shown in-game as white space, and then the dream world, which is where most of the content resides. And then toward the end of the game, we find out about dark space. As we progress, we get hints and pieces of advice that guide us toward becoming a person that doesn't have to suffer through this pain the way most do nowadays, which is to say we don't have to keep our feelings trapped inside. We can confront them and we can beat them. But we just can't do it alone, especially if it seems as if the battle was meant only for us. And because this is a natural progression, we can see this metaphysically take place by the fact that it just gets easier to battle these things. We can even see all the enemies we encounter in-game as life obstacles that all have their own quirks and tricks to them, but once we've put the effort into not succumbing, we can see that we all have the inner strength to prevail. Our friends are there to reinforce your strength and to lead you onto paths carved out of love, but that lead to success or spiritual enlightenment. Friendship and love are the absolutes in this game. They are the antidotes to all manners of darkness, but it's not always so serious. The game's frequent use of humor and comedic moments give us a very real sense of the importance of emulating the innocent human experience. We are seeing life being explored through the eyes of children, who only have so much information to go on. Knowing that, we have a blending of the real world, the dark world so to speak, where the tendrils of mental illness can creep in and suck away the life of your own imagination. It's that very imagination, the dream world, that Sunny has to travel to every day so that he can cope with an incredibly fraught existence. And the way the game handles this is masterful. Again, the metaphor strikes true. The game elements show us what the brain is capable in creating when reality has failed us tragically. Sunny's very reality has been shattered by an intimate devastation, so it's no surprise that a child with very little world experience has to create a world for himself where he can have some semblance of control. But the beautiful image behind this process is that it isn't something born out of pointing out the dangers in escaping reality. On the contrary, we are celebrating the profundity of imagination. We are worshipping the idea of becoming someone who can break through their own barriers by insisting upon it. We are taking a glimpse into the therapeutic and sometimes emotionally healing properties of using imagination in a constructive way. This isn't a story about having depression or having intense fears. This is a story about battling those fears. The story is in the conquest itself, and this is important to me that people see this when they play for themselves. The story is when we decide that these are not forces we can allow to control us. So all of this I extracted from spending a significant amount of time in a world of extreme color, unforgettable characters, insanely beautiful music, and for me personally, a slow-burning attachment to the ideas of the game. I want to touch on one more thing, and it involves the splitting of Sunny and OMORI. So Sunny is the name of our protagonist, but in the dream world where you spend most of the game, he is known as OMORI. OMORI is short for hikikomori, which is a Japanese term that means someone who avoids social contact. So here we aren't dealing with Sunny splitting into two people, but rather we are seeing two ends of the same rope tug at each other in opposite directions, until it realizes that all it had to do was work with itself and relax its resistance. This idea will become more and more apparent when you play the game. Sunny created this version of himself, but it isn't an independent creation. The fact that OMORI is colorless has all to do with the fact that this is his private side, where he keeps the secrets of his woes tightly bound inside. So me pointing out all these things, and extracting all this substance out of a game should tell you that I'm not trying to flex my knowledge of literary jargon, and I'm also not trying to dilute the game's intentions with my perception of it. What I'm trying to say was that this game was incredibly profound, substantive to a degree where you might seriously do some soul-searching during and after your experience, and it also felt like a game that was made by people who care deeply about what their art says, rather than what their art will produce for them. OMOCat has gained my ultimate appreciation and respect, and I'm giving this game a 10 out of 10.